So yesterday saw the release of the Halifax House Price Index covering the period up to April 2024. And whilst it shows some positive signs, there are also some worrying signs ahead. So watch out for those. Let's get straight into the report though. Quick overview shows us that the average house price in the UK rose by 0.1% in April on a monthly basis after a fall of 0.9% in March. Property prices grew by plus 1.1% annually versus 0.4% last month, and a typical home in the UK now costs just under £289,000, which isn't a significant change from last month. Just take a look at this graph. There is some interesting detail in here if we want to pay a bit more close attention. So the dark blue line is the annual percentage change. The light blue line is the 3-month on 3-month change, and the pink line is the monthly change. If we take a look at the annual and the monthly, we can see the course that they've tracked over the last year or so, and now they seem to be aligned and going in pretty much the same direction. The worrying bit is the 3-month on 3-month change, and that, as you can clearly see, is heading in a downward direction. Now, I will come back to this in a second. Let's just have a look what Amanda Bryden, the head of mortgages at the Halifax, had to say. UK house prices held steady in April, rising on a monthly basis by just 0.1%, which is less than £200 in cash terms. Annual growth rose to plus 1.1% from a 0.4% in March, though this can be attributed to the base effect of a weaker price growth around this time last year, and the market was much weaker at this time last year than it is now. So actually, where we're seeing positive numbers, actually, could they really be negative? And that's again why I want to come back to the 3-month on 3-month chain. The average property in the UK now costs just under £289,000 compared to just under £288,000 at the start of the year. And while there is always much scrutiny on monthly price changes and a degree of volatility is to be expected given the current market conditions, the reality is that average house prices have largely plateaued in the early part of 2024. So whilst we've been seeing that the likes of the Halifax reports and the nationwide reports all showing positive growth, the reality is that actually that positive growth isn't really there. This reflects a housing market finding its feet in an era of higher interest rates. While borrowing costs remain more expensive than a few years ago, home buyers are gaining confidence from a period of relative stability. Activity and demand is improving, evidenced by greater numbers of mortgage applications so far this year, while at an industry level, mortgage approvals have reached their highest point in 18 months. And I've said this in past videos, we are seeing much more buoyant conditions right now, and people do seem to be fairly accepting of the higher interest rate environment in which we find ourselves. Our recent research also finds that buyers are adjusting their expectations, with first-time buyers in particular compensating for higher borrowing costs by targeting smaller properties. We see this reflected in property prices for the first few months of this year, with the value of flats rising most, closing the growth gap on bigger properties that has existed for most of the last 4 years. And here's the piece that I really want to focus on when we go back to that 3-month on 3-month chain, and why I think the next few months are going to be key for the property market. However, we can't overlook the fact that affordability constraints are still a significant challenge for both new buyers and those rolling off fixed-term deals. Mortgage rates have edged up again in recent weeks, primarily as a result of the expectations around the future of the Bank of England base rate changes, with markets now pricing in a slower pace of rate cuts. If, as is still expected, downward moves in bank rate come into play later this year, fixed mortgage rates should fall. Combined with the resilience displayed by the housing market over recent months, we now expect property prices to rise modestly over the course of 2024. And I'm not sure about that bit, because the real worry here is the fact that the interest rates in recent weeks have been on the increase. Just yesterday, we had 7 or 8 lenders all announcing that they were increasing their rates. There was only one lender that stood out yesterday, and that was Barclays, and they made some slight reduction. But overall, most lenders increasing the pricing of their fixed rate product, which is a really worrying sign. Now, this is all caused by the worrying inflation data. We've got the Bank of England meeting on Thursday to set interest rates, where it's widely expected that they're going to be kept on hold at 5.25%. Now, the thing that is really needed the most here is some positive commentary from Andrew Bailey. All we've been hearing over the recent weeks is that we're going to have to keep the rates higher for longer. The expectations of around 4 base rate cuts this year have now dropped sharply down to 2 base rate cuts. And some key data that's due out over the next couple of months is going to be really key to what is going to happen to that Bank of England base rate. Now, there is still hope that they could be making a cut in June, but it's not a certainty. So like I said, over recent weeks, we have seen mortgage rates steadily increasing, and this is impacting affordability, and it really is starting to stall the market. Whilst we're busy with inquiries, people are gauging what they can borrow and what they can then purchase. They aren't necessarily turning into transactions just yet because people are holding off, whilst this instability calms itself down. And going back to this graph, that's why this light blue line is on its way down with property values. I think that this could be set to drop further as we go through the year. I think the only thing that is now going to bring some stability back is that first base rate cut and positive commentary from Andrew Bailey. But how are you finding the market? Are you out there looking for property at the moment, and you've decided to put your plans on hold because you can't afford to buy what you wanted to? And are you due to remortgage within the next 6 months? Is your fixed rate ending and you're just putting plans on hold to see if rates drop further? I wouldn't suggest that, obviously, but is that what you're doing at the moment? Please do let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for the support in the channel. It is appreciated. Please do like and share the video. Please do hit that follow button. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, there is a link to this Halifax house price index in the video notes. Take care.